Okay.
It's going to talk about once we are done with the training, you will be able to clearly understand the roles and responsibilities of a business analyst in a software project.
Okay.
What are the different roles and responsibilities of a business analyst in a software project is what you would be aware of by the end of this training session.
Okay.
So this will give you a thorough understanding of the overall business analysis process, and this is how the course content looks like. Today is a demo session, so I'm just quickly going to explain the different content that will be discussed and learned as part of this training session. The first, to start with, we must understand what this term business analyst means. So, and hence in the introduction to business analysis, I would start with defining this very term called business analyst. Who is a business analyst? What a business analyst would do? What are the different roles and responsibilities of a business analyst? It's very important for us to understand what is meant by business analyst. So, to give you a very brief introduction, business analyst. When we're talking about any software project, we are talking about two important stakeholders, and you might be aware of. On one side, we have the client or the user or the business client who will be facing certain challenges in performing their day-to-day operations. And on the other side, we have the technical consultants from the software company. So whenever the client is facing any challenge in performing their day-to-day operations, they would want to seek the help of software companies and get the software application or the product that's provided by the software company implemented in at their organization to overcome those challenges. Okay. While this happens, we are talking about two different categories altogether. On one side, we have the business client. They know the business well. They normally talk from a business point of view. But on the other side, from the software company, we have the technical consultants who would talk a very technical language, who would use very technical stuff.
Okay.
They would be talking about Java, they would be talking about Oracle, they would be talking about database, they would be talking about testing, QA, QTP, Selenium, etc., etc. These are the kind of terms that they would be using. But on the other side, if the client is into, let's say, banking, the client would be using terms like banking, core banking, retail banking, industrial banking, credit card, insurance, mutual fund, capital market, investment banking, merchandising, etc., etc. So if we these are two different worlds altogether, but ultimately it is the software consultants, it's technical consultants of the software company who will have to provide a software solution to the client. But the language that these two stakeholders use would be very different from that of each other. And hence, there is a need for a business analyst.
Okay.
A business analyst would act as an intermediary between the client and the technical consultants of the software company. Business analyst will have to understand the nature of business of the client. By understanding the nature of business of the client, business analyst will be able to understand the challenges that the client is facing on a daily basis while performing their day-to-day operations. Now, those challenges, those requirements of the client will have to be translated by the business analyst to the technical consultants and other stakeholders of the software company in such a way that it's easily understood by all the different stakeholders of the software project. Now, and hence, business analyst will act as an intermediary between the client and software company. That is what, at a high level, that is what business analyst would do. Is that clear, Nandini?
Yes.
Okay. So, in order to perform that activity, that intermediary activity or the activity of a liaison between these two stakeholders, there are a lot of things that the business analyst will have to do. What is that, and at what stage what the business analyst will have to do is what we would be discussing. So once we understand that the term business analyst, then we would move to something called a system development life cycle or a software development life cycle. As human we have our life cycle, isn't it? We are born, we grow up, we go to school, go to college, start working, get married, get a family, purchase property, purchase property, start your own business, retire, and then the eventuality, which is nothing but the death. And if you believe in rebirth, you are reborn. You believe in rebirth, Nadanli?
Yes.
So that's human life cycle, and those are different stages of human life cycle, isn't it? So that entire cycle would constitute the human life. Similarly, any software project, would have its own cycle. Typically, any software project would start with the project initiation or project kickoff. The client and the software company will approach each other, and they'll get into an agreement, and they'll say, okay, let's start, let's kickstart this project, let's initiate it, and that's called as project initiation or kickoff. And then the scope of the project will have to be clearly defined. Unless we know what is going to be done as part of this project and what is not going to be done as part of this project, we will end up in deep trouble. So it's very important at initial stages itself to clearly define the scope of the project. Once that's done, it would be about gathering the requirements from the client. So how client interaction happen, what should we ask when we meet the client, and what are the different things we ought to know from the client, and once we know what their requirements are, how are we gathering those requirements. Once the requirements gathered, it is very important for the software company to document those requirements. Otherwise, we would not know what requirement is what each requirement stands for. Hence, it is very important for these requirements to get documented. Once the requirements are gathered, it's very important to document those requirements, record it, elaborate those requirements, explain clearly what each requirement stands for. Once that's done, these documents will be handed over to the development team to perform their development activity, because the development team, after all, that would be translating the needs of the clients into the form of some kind of a software application. So these documents would be handed over to the developers, and they would start their development activity. Once that's done, the project moves on to the testing phase. At this stage, the quality of the product or the software application would be identified. Quality of any software product or application is directly linked with the quality of testing that's done on the product. Once this stage is over, it will be handed over to the client. Now the client will accept the product blindly, but the client will have to test the product in their environment thoroughly. Once that's done, based on the level of confidence that they would get on the software product or the application, the client will either accept or reject the solution.
The solution.
Yeah. Once they, in case they are okay with it and they accept it, then they make it implementational across their organization. And at this stage is when the entire project would come to an end. These are different phases of the software development life cycle, right from the project initiation, kickoff, to the defining scope, and gather the requirements, document those requirements, development, testing, user acceptance testing, and then production and maintenance. So this is the entire cycle. Okay. Now, why should we understand this cycle? Yes, because there is a general misconception that the role of a business analyst in a software project would come to an end once requirements are gathered and documented. That's a general misconception that is within the industry. The moment someone hears this term business analyst, what comes to their mind is that the business analyst will vanish once the client interaction happens, once the requirements are gathered, and once they are documented. No, that's not true. That's a misconception. That's a myth. The fact is that the role of a business analyst would come into picture at almost every stage of the SDLC or the system development lifecycle. Not just at the requirement gathering phase, not just at the documenting phase. The business analyst must be present when development activity is going on in order to support the developers. every single activity that's done by the testing team will not be considered final unless it's approved by the business analyst. During UAT, it will be handed over to the client, and the client will have to perform testing in their environment. It's the business analyst who would be present in the UAT as well. And also there are dedicated BAs who would take care of the production and maintenance issues. So at almost every stage of the system development lifecycle, the role of a business analyst is very, very important.
Okay.
And hence we will discuss TLC. And then any business analyst would be expected to be functional expert or domain expert. Okay. When I say functional expert or domain expert, I'm talking about the business area of specialization based on the educational background and the prior work experience. Now, somebody, let's consider your example. You have done your bachelor's in finance, and you're currently working within the financial domain itself. You're working as a budget analyst, right? So your educational background and your prior work experience, everything is in finance, and hence it makes sense for you to get into some kind of finance-related projects once you start your career as a business analyst in a software company, because you already know. So, I'm sure you might know that software companies handle a lot of projects from different areas, from different domains. Software companies can do projects on telecom, can do it on banking, pharma, healthcare, IT, anything. It can be on anything, isn't it? But
Yes.
with respect to
why do you call them software companies?
could you please repeat that, Nick?
Why do you call those companies software companies? Are they all software companies?
Which one?
All the companies you're talking about in the beginning.
No. Okay.
And even
So
the software project. Is it only software project?
Okay. Let me give you this background. A software company is one that would handle different software projects.
Okay.
Okay. And these software projects can be from the industry.
Okay.
A software project can be in banking. Within the same software company, another project might be in healthcare, another project might be on telecom, another can be on manufacturing, another can be on automobile, it can be on anything.
Anything, okay.
So, if the project is on, let's say, finance, let's say there is a software company called X. Why X? You've heard of IBM? IBM. Let's say IBM is handling a particular project in finance. Okay. Now they are providing software solution, let's say, to Citibank. That's the project that IBM is doing. In this case, IBM is the software company. The project that they are doing is for Citibank, and this project,
client.
who is the client, absolutely. And to accomplish this project, IBM will have to interact with Citibank, isn't it?
Yes.
At IBM, there are a lot of senior technical consultants who are experts in Java, Oracle, .NET, mainframe, etc. At Citibank's end, we have experts. We have the vice president, marketing head. We have the operations head. We have different people. So they will understand what Java is, and these Java people will not understand what Citibank does, isn't it?
True.
Hence, IBM will have to hire business analysts who understand the nature of business of Citibank and who can communicate those requirements of Citibank clearly to these technical people of the software company, internal IBM. Let's say.
I understand that.
understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who should recruit? They must recruit somebody who's done. Oh, why am I not present anymore? Give me a second, then. You're able to. You can see my screen.
It says business analysis.
Oh, you can see my screen.
Yes.
Now what is
Presenter
it?
Chandra. Presenter organizer Chandra. Presenter Chandra.
No. That's not my screen. Okay, give me a second, please. Okay, meanwhile, so and hence, any business now they'll hire, this IBM will have to hire a business analyst who would understand Citibank's business. Let's say they put Nirali because she's got she's done her education in finance. She's worked as a budget analyst. She understands few things about finance, and Nirali is hired by IBM as a business analyst for the project that they're doing for Citibank. You're expert in finance is a notion. Within finance, you're an expert in, let's say, budgeting.
Yes.
I specialize in investment banking, portfolio management, wealth management, which again would fall under the banking and financial services industry. Somebody else might specialize in automobile. Somebody else might specialize in telecom. So it can be anything. But basically, any business analyst would be expected to be a functional expert. You are an expert, or you specialize in budgeting. I specialize in portfolio management. So these are different functional areas. These are different domains that we are talking about. Your domain is budgeting. My domain is wealth management. You understand?
I understand. Yes. Yes.
So
Thank you.
no problem. And the banking and financial services sector is the most happening within the IT space. It's the evergreen domain. Even with respect to job opportunities, there will be umpteen number of opportunities available for candidates within this BFSI segment. It is an evergreen field. Okay, so it's the most happening. A lot of technological advancements would happen almost at regular intervals within the BFSI space, and hence there is huge scope for business analysts in this space. I don't know why they are not able to see my screen. Just responding. I'm just going through the course content there.
Yes,
so,
I understand. I remember the screen.
Yeah. So for all, because I have specialized, I have been working on this portfolio management or wealth management, investment banking all through my career, and in these 7 years, what I witnessed is that on a frequent basis, very frequently, very often, there are a lot of software advancements that would happen in this space. On a daily basis, there is something new that's coming up, and hence there are a lot of job opportunities with respect to wealth management and portfolio management. And for all purposes, we are going to stick to this domain, which is called as wealth management or portfolio management. This would fall under BFSI category, banking and financial services industry. Okay. And then, as I've told you, business analyst will, there is a, the most important role of a business analyst would be to gather the requirements. And that's why a business analyst must be there. That's the most important reason for the presence or the existence of a business analyst within a project. Once we understand the domain, once we understand the nitty-gritties of management domain, then we go on to learn how to gather requirements from the client. If you remember, while explaining SDLC, I would have told that once the requirements are gathered, it's very important to capture those requirements or document those requirements. And at that, now you can see my screen?
Yes, I can see now. Yes,
so
thank you.
No problem. Now, those documents, there are two most important documents that any business analyst would be expected to prepare. They're BRD and FSD. BRD stands for Business Requirement Document and FSD stands for Functional Specification Design. These are two most important documents that any business analyst will have to prepare day in and day out. Okay. So
BRD is Business Requirement Document and FSD is
Functional Specification or a document.
Okay, thank you.
So there are a lot of synonyms for these terms. BRD can also be called HLR. HLR stands for High Level Requirement. FSD is also called SRS, and that stands for Software Requirement Specification. Or FSD can simply be called a spec. Spec is the short form of specification document. So during this session, we will clearly, and there will be a lot of real-time assignments that will be handed over to you during. There is no better way of learning documentation but to do it ourselves. Unless we prepare few documents, we will not get an understanding of what these documents are. We will have to prepare that and all that. Okay. So starting from here, starting from this session, wealth management session onwards, you will be given a lot of real-time assignments. And while explaining wealth management domain, if possible, I'll be able to show you a live wealth management software product that's there in the market for the last 15 to 20 years and is one of the market leaders. So if things go well, if things fall in place, I'll definitely be able to show you that product. You might not get a hands-on experience on the product, but definitely you can get a feel as to how that product would look like, how to use that product, how to navigate, what are the different modules, what each module would do, etc. Okay.
Okay.
This is a simple tool. This is the most commonly used tool by the entire business analyst fraternity in order to come up with process flow diagrams. Any FSD would be incomplete without a process flow diagram. And how those process flow diagrams are prepared is using something called as MS Visio. So I'll give you exposure to how to use MS Visio, and then software testing. Yeah, and then software testing. I might have told at the SDLC stage that any activity that would be performed by the testing by the testers, will not be considered as final without BA approval, without the business analyst approval. So if we approve something, we must know what it is, isn't it? And hence, if we have to approve the activities, different activities that are performed by the testers, we must understand what those activities are, how they are accomplishing those activities, etc. And hence, we will have to learn something about software testing. Some cases, if the requirement is complex, BA himself or herself will have to get into the testing. Typically, there would be a dedicated testing team. However, if the requirement is complex, the BA themselves will have to act as the testers. Okay, and hence it's very important for you to know what this software testing is all about. And then once we are done with this, at that stage, you might be ready for the market, and hence it would be time for us to learn some of the important aspects about preparing the resume, how to grab the recruiter's attention, what are some of the most important items that you will have to capture as part of your resume in order to grab the recruiter's attention, do's and don'ts, and then if time permits, we will definitely do a mock interview.
Okay.
Okay, this is what I'm going to cover, or what I would generally cover as